Here is the ultimate ROG Ally comparison video. We'll be looking at the SteamDeck and the ROG Ally holistically and seeing how they balance out power and performance. They're both pretty close in specs compared to other handheld PCs, which will be nice to see how minor differences can affect gameplay. But we also want to bring in the One X Player 2, the Nintendo Switch OLED and the GPD Windfall to look at external parts, size, weight and grip. In a handheld gaming device, you want your chip to be as beefy as possible, but without draining your battery life too much. The ROG Ally has a chip made perfectly for it, the new AMD Z1 Extreme. But let's put it to test with the SteamDeck to see which one holds up better. With 2 extra cores and built based off the AMD Zen 4 chip, you're in for a smooth gaming experience. Right off the bat, it has 2 more cores and more processing power than the SteamDeck, which uses the AMD's Zen 2 chip. Considering the Z1 Extreme is a newer generation of processors, it is sure to overperform. The Ally draws 30, 15 and 9 watts in turbo, performance and silent modes respectively. This would suggest anywhere from 1 to 4 hours of playtime and battery life, depending on the graphics mode and the games you play. At turbo, the Ally runs AAA titles for a solid hour and a half at mid graphics. Normal performance can boost the battery life by 2 times, running your games for 3 hours if you charge it fully. Ultimately, it really depends on what games you play and how smooth you want your gaming experience to be. It's not too different from the SteamDeck, but the deck does perform a little better in terms of power management. At the highest graphics performance on AAA titles, it's noted to run for about the same amount of time as the Ally. On less demanding games, mid-performance with the 30 FPS limiter on, you can maybe squeeze about 3.5 hours of a gaming session. On the lowest performance mode at 9 watts, the deck is noted to outperform the Ally in silent mode. With 512GB SSD and the option of adding a micro SD card, it's also PCIe 4, which supposedly transfers data 2 times faster than the PCIe 3 on the SteamDeck. That's a potential 2.5 TB of games and data you can store on your Ally. On top of that, if you want more internal storage and you're experienced with modding laptops, changing out your SSD DIY style is totally possible. It won't void your warranty, that is, if your device's faultiness isn't caused by your tampering. The SteamDeck has 3 options for storage, starting at 64GB with a PCIe 2 architecture, 256GB and 512GB with a speedier PCIe 3. Out of the 4 handheld devices, the GPD Windfall has the smallest body, but the Nintendo Switch OLED is the lightest. But with regards to units with similar screen size and function, the Ally is the smallest among these units. The Ally's display is a 7-inch touchscreen, which outputs at Full HD with a refresh rate of 120Hz. It also boasts an impressive maximum brightness of 500 nits. However, it is not OLED. This is because the team has cited cost efficiency and the lifespan of the screen. The SteamDeck has a 7-inch 720p IPS LCD with a maximum of 400 nits and a refresh rate of 60Hz, which is a little less compared to the Ally. Seemingly the best of the bunch, the One X Player 2 has the biggest screen out of all the consoles here, with a 2.5K screen with a maximum brightness of 350 nits. The ROG Ally has a great, easy to understand at first glance button layout, especially if you're an Xbox player. It has 2 haptic RGB joysticks, which the lights can be modified under the Armory crate. On the other hand, the One X Player 2 has lights on both of its joysticks. However, the colors of the lights cannot be modified. It will stay orange. The SteamDeck GPD Windfall do not have RGB lighting on the joysticks, so overall, the Ally stays winning in the gamer looks category. The ROG Ally, One X Player and the GPD Windfall has its D-pad on the left side but below the joystick. However, for the SteamDeck, the D-pad is on the outer left of the joystick at the top left corner of the console. The Steam Deck, however, has two trackpads on each side of the Steam Deck. It works similarly to the D-pad. However, upon pressing, it doesn't give a tactile bump when pressed as acknowledgement to the user's command, but it does give off a slight vibration instead. This feature does not exist with all of these other consoles. The GPD Win4 actually has a mouse trackpad called the optical finger navigation. The ROG Ally has two rear buttons, while the Steam Deck has four. Both consoles has its rear buttons placed comfortably behind, so your fingers don't need to stretch, while your hands are comfortably gripping the device. The GPD Win4 has two rear buttons, but they're not as ergonomically designed as compared to the other two consoles. Only the One X player doesn't have any rear buttons. Most of these consoles do not have detachable controllers aside for the Nintendo Switch and the One X Player 2 in this case. The ROG Ally, Steam Deck, and GPD Win4 comes in one piece. Some reviewers have noticed that the Ally has pretty sticky buttons. Compared to the Steam Deck's buttons, it does feel slightly stickier and needs a bit more actuation force. The One X Player has the stickiest buttons, which has been cited to be an issue during gaming sessions. And the GPD Win4 and Switch are quite reminiscent of the old PSP plastic buttons, with the shortest travel distance. The ROG Ally is encased in plastic rough textures with ridges on the sides, providing better grip and preventing fingerprint markings. However, for the One X Player, it is encased in a smooth white plastic with no grip or rough textures and ridges. Although it is very smooth and comfortable to the touch, it may backfire due to the higher possibility of slipping, especially with the One X Player 2. The Steam Deck's shell material is made with plastic with a bit of a grainier texture than the One X Player 2. It also has a grip. However, due to the texture, it is not as secure as gripping the ROG Ally. The GPD Win4's encasing is made out of smooth plastic in the front, and it's textured at the back for a firmer grip. All of the consoles have a back grip except for the Nintendo Switch. This is a very subtle yet important feature for handheld consoles that is usually forgotten. The back grip gives a nice hold for users to play the console for hours. The ROG Ally, Steam Deck, and Nintendo Switch and GPD Win4 have speakers on the bottom front sides of the console. The One X Player's speaker openings are on the bottom side of the console. All consoles have their speakers positioned similarly. All consoles have a micro SD card slot for external storage. This feature gives users extra storage for games or any other PC-related data for their own perusal. However, performance-wise, the ROG Ally has a UHS-2 micro SD slot, which reads 3 times faster than the rest of these consoles. The Steam Deck, One X Player 2, GPD Win4, and the Switch does use the older UHS-1. Ultimately, the ROG Ally is a strong competitor for the other consoles, especially the Steam Deck. Despite its breathtaking 120Hz refresh rate, the ROG Ally definitely still has room for improvement, both in hardware and software. With Windows 11 and a free 90-day trial with the Xbox Game Pass Ultimate compared to the Steam Deck's Linux Steam OS, which can limit your game choices. It seems like a net W for gamers to get the Ally instead. But the Steam Deck is still more optimized to balance gaming performance and battery power, as high refresh rates and higher resolutions in the Ally means more power is eaten up. Overall, if you're looking to invest in a gaming console that also works as a portable tiny PC, the ROG Ally is the strongest contender amongst its peers.